All right, Kenny, you wanted to know what's involved in a Hemi swap. Let's see here. Depending on which engine you want to go with, you've got the early 09 or 06 to 09 or whatever it was. Those engines can be run on what's called a 6 Hemi from Holley. It doesn't take a special ECM or anything. You can run a carburetor on those and still run the coil-on plug. This is a 2012 Ram engine. It is a VVT, which is the solenoids right back here under the hose. I have pulled all of the VVT stuff out of it, plugged it all off. I have changed the cam and lifters, stock timing chain, all that happy stuff. Kind of starting on this end, the dipstick tube for the transmission, this has a 727 in it. The dipstick tube can accidentally shut that off. The dipstick tube can be rebent so it will fit the engine and retain the stock dipstick. Those aftermarket steel braid ones are just junk. I hate those darn things. Then we have putting a catch can on this one after I found a bunch of oil in the intake manifold. But this, and then we have the I can't really see it down in there, but this has the ITT headers on it. You know, they're about $1,000. This one I'm running an aftermarket systems from EFI Source. At the time during COVID, I wasn't able to get anything from Holley. The EFI Source had a I can't think what it is now. Anyways, they had Megasquirt. They had their system available, so I bought it. That's been a learning curve with that thing. I've got all that in here and kind of dialed in. I'm having to do some work on this, getting ready to go to a dyno session here pretty soon. But for the fuel system, I've got an in-tank pump, but it's a gas tank with a built-in pump. All these steel braid lines, all this stuff is from Evil Energy. I've got to where I use nothing but that from them. It's pretty good stuff. It's easy to work with. It's not a steel braid. This is the PTFE on this, so that stuff's real simple to work with. But when putting the engine in, of course I've got a overflow bottle mounted here. I've got relays and stuff down there for a separate headlight relays, because the stock wiring in these cars gets old and gets cranky. So what this does is it actually powers off the back of the alternator and powers the headlight, so it doesn't run through the factory wiring anymore. But the let me see, can't really see it down in there, but the frame has to be cut to accommodate that alternator on this style of engine. There's not much that has to be cut out, just about 3/8, maybe a 1/2 inch trim for the width of that alternator. It gives you plenty of room to get in there. Engine mounts, there's a special engine mount from TTI. What I call it for ITT is TTI headers, TTI engine mounts, and up to the 72 uses the biscuit style engine mount, the rubber ones. I've got those in here. As you see, I used a factory radiator, made up my own little upper hose and my own little lower hose. You can kind of see it down in there a bit. But this is all factory stuff. That way, if I break a radiator or have a fan go out or something, I can go to AutoZone, O'Reilly's, Napa, whoever, and get a radiator. If you use an original radiator or something aftermarket, those things hard to come by if you break one in the middle of nowhere. So that's the reasoning for wanting to stay with all the stock factory stuff. Let's see. The engine fits. I had to trim a little bit off of the valve covers. You can kind of see where those gray spots are. I had to trim a little bit so it clears getting in and out on the passenger side. I don't know if that car that you're looking at working on has if it's an AC car or not. This is a non-AC. There's enough room to get the valve cover out once the coil pack's out of the way around that fan motor. Let's see. Again, there's the radiator. Look at the front of the engine. It's all pretty much just stock stuff. Now that idler pulley, I special built that bracket for an idler pulley because I could not find one to do what I wanted to do on this particular engine, so I just kind of fabbed one up. So far, no problems. This fitting down in here for the hose, for the heater hose, I wound up having to JB weld that in because the original hole is kind of big. These, the heater hoses, they're actually pipes on these cars, and they're just O-ringed on the one end where they go in where I have the fittings, and then you bolt to the block back there in the back. And that's how those are set up. This setup, you can put an actual hose barb on them and run them to the heater cord. That one's got a leak. I know that it leaks, so I didn't even bother hooking it up. But you know, I can still run the stock battery. Then I've got all the wiring here for the system I have in here, the engine system, engine management. Got a line lock down there. Done a little bit of work on the brakes. I've got a whole different rear end in this than what came in this thing factory. Now the steering column, you can see that back in here I cut this off. Normally it came down to about here. To clear this valve cover in here, that has to be trimmed off back to there, which is about an inch out from the firewall or so. But you got to have that clearance for that valve cover. And I think I trimmed that washer and stuff a little bit to fit that. The oil dipstick, yeah, it's kind of rebent to fit down in there. I have a non-power steering car, which that header goes around, but I have to take the suspension out of this thing to get that header tube out, which is a real pain in the ass. Just a royal pain. Let's see. Firewall clearance is pretty good. You can get a hand back down there. It's not super close. Some of the, and also put a bulkhead fitting. Put a bulkhead fitting in the firewall for the oil pressure line, so I don't have to have a small hose, a hole for that hose to go through and a grommet and all that stuff. This way, if I need to replace just a short piece of hose, it's fairly simple to do. I cleaned up a bunch of wiring on this. It was kind of halfway what I was doing. That's why the intake is off of it. I don't know if that other car is a power brake car or not. I just have manual brakes on this. It stops pretty good. The engine I got lucky on. That came out of a 2012 Ram. By the time it was said and done, I've only got about $450 in this engine, and it had 100,000 miles on it. So that was a pretty darn good deal. But to find anything out of a salvage yard, they're a couple $1,000, depending on what year you're getting, what size. So the guy that's wanting to do this swap, I hope he's got a big budget, because this is not cheap. Because you got to have late model, or like the 73 up, drag link, Pitman arm, the tie rod ends, the tie rod stuff, all of that can stay the 70, let's see, what is it? 72 and down, yeah, the tie rod ends and the coupler can all stay 72 and older stuff. But the drag link, the Pitman arm, and the idler arm all have to be 73 up to clear these oil pans. Holley makes a swap oil pan, and it comes with the I'll think of the name here in a minute. Too much stuff going on today. But Holley makes a swap pan. You will need that. I don't know if anybody has come up with anything that's different on those. Windage tray is what it comes with, and it came with a pickup tube with it. So you have to swap the pan, change the drag link, pitman arm, idler arm to 73 and up. If that car has power steering, I know nothing about what to do if there's anything that has to be changed on that. I don't know if guys are going to manual steering boxes or not. Let's see. These will fit. They will bolt to a small block transmission, 727-904. No adapters needed. There is a special flywheel for that. And I don't remember if there's an adapter in the back of the crank for the torque converter snout to fit into. I don't remember on that. That's been 3 or 4 years ago now. Overall, it's not cheap to do this swap. You know, it's $1,000 to do the headers. The oil pan was $300 or $400. I can't remember now. The flex plate, that was another $100 or something. The engine management system, that was a couple grand at the time. I've got a new cam in this, which that's they're $500 or $600, and that was a comped cam. New lifters at that time, I got the full set for $400. They're factory OE lifters. Had to measure for push rods, do all that sort of stuff. So if you get the older engine, the 06 to 09 or whatever it is, you don't have to delete all the VVT stuff because there is no VVT on it. That's the beauty of the older engines, but they don't make the horsepower that these 09 and up engines make. Let's see. It's a stock water pump, like I say, stock radiator, and everything I was using was from an 09 Charger. So that way I just remember 09 Charger. I can get a water pump, tensioner, fan assembly, radiator. The hoses are all custom made, so that's, and yeah, I even custom made that lower one because it's got a little splice in it down there. I think that's it. But I would say this day and age to do the fuel system, get a fairly inexpensive engine, if you can buy this stuff used, fantastic. If not, you're going to pay for it. I would say at least 8 to 10 in a swap like this, depending on what you get an engine for. That's the big thing. Like I say, the headers are $1,000. That oil pan was $300 or $400. The cam was to get rid of the VVT. That was $5 or $6. And then, no, actually, I think it was $400 for lifters. So I'm at $1,000 in lifters. Headers was another $1,000. So there's $2,500 to $3,000 just in those 3 items. Then having to source the parts to change the pitman arm, idler arm, and drag link. I was able to find those on the internet. Engine management systems, if you have to go with something. If you get a newer engine, there's a lot of guys out there, I can't remember the name of some of the companies that are using factory ECMs, using factory harnesses and having the ECM flashed and take all the junk off of it. It doesn't have to have, and just running a bone stock engine. I don't know if that includes running O2 sensors on those, which it probably does, so those have to be in the system. But overall, this was a royal pain, and I will not do this again unless it's a paid job, because it is It's a tight fit. You can see there is not much room on either side. There's a decent amount of room here, front to back, so you could put a little bit bigger radiator or something different in these and get away with that. Then, you know, it's a fairly snug fit over there. A really snug fit over here on this side. I think that's it. Yeah. Well, then I had an intake. This was a, it's over there on the bench. It's kind of upside down, gluing gaskets on it right now. But those intakes were, they're about $600 now, plus a throttle body. Let's see. This is a Phytech 92 millimeter. I've just got some adapters on it for throttles and stuff. You'll need injectors if you swap out and do something like I did. And these are just factory stock injectors. They'll run this just fine. This thing, factory, they were like 395 horsepower with everything that's been done to it. It should be up close to 5. I'll find out when I get to the dyno here in probably the next couple of weeks. But anyways, yeah, if you got some questions on it, just hit me up and I'll answer what I can. But hopefully this gives you a general idea of what's involved in putting a Hemi in an A body. To say it's a pain in the ass is quite the understatement. Have a good day.